Hello, all my lovelies. Welcome back to this little corner of the internet. Thank you so much for joining me. A couple of things before we dive into this next video. For those of you that are new, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today. I talk about all things books with a little bit of random here and there mixed in, such as travel and fashion and just random in general. This is my little Taco. I have two cats. This is Taco and the other one is Bella. Bella is perfect for this October season that we're in because she is a beautiful black cat and matches with the October decor perfectly. For those of you that are returning, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for joining me again. It's always so fun to share all these things about books with you guys and just let you know what's going on. She decided that she now wants to leave, so we're gonna let her go do her thing. I know that everything in the background probably looks very different for those of you that have been in these videos before. In Hindu tradition, in Hindu culture, we actually have a celebration that lasts for 9 days. And during the course of those 9 days, we basically pray to the goddesses in South India, and in North India, we have a prayer session for the god Ram and his return back to the sacred city of Ayodhya in our heritage. And basically, the beauty of the 9-day celebration is that you are praying for more light in your life, the destruction of evil and the removal of obstacles, and basically just praying to enlighten yourself and expand on all the positives in your life. There's also different aspects to each of the goddesses that we celebrate. So the first goddess would be Durga Devi. She is supposed to be the one who has energy, power to create, to destroy, to basically remove all evil within our world. And so the idea is you kill the ego within you to appreciate that all of us are one, all of us are equal. And then the next goddess would be the goddess of wealth. Wealth is obviously found in different forms. Yes, of course, there's monetary wealth, but also happiness, joy, family, health. All of these things are considered a component of what makes us wealthy. So we also pray in gratitude for what we have and the continuity of that in our lives. And then last but not least, once you have achieved a sense of peace by destroying the ego and the evil thoughts within your mind, and you have appreciated the comforts that you need in order to be at peace, such as a roof over your head, food to eat, good health, then you can appreciate any knowledge given to you. And that's when we pray to the last goddess, Saraswati, who is basically the goddess of knowledge. So these 9 days are very, very special. And in certain families, certain cultures, we set up something called a golu, which is what you're seeing in the background here. A golu is basically depicting the various levels of evolution, if you will. So in Indian culture, we do believe in the concept of reincarnation, basically meaning that when one passes away, if the soul has any unfinished business or is still in desire of accomplishing something or realizing something, needs to overcome a certain quality, then you are reborn. And in each rebirth, the belief is you slowly ascend to the highest form of birth, which is human birth, because humans by nature have the ability to think before they act, which makes them very unique and therefore gives them the ability to take time to ruminate on more important things in life, also looking into oneself and reflecting, all such things. So each of these different steps basically associate with that. So the lowest step is usually the step that shows baser level existence. And then from there you have the next step, that's each step shows ascension until the final step, which basically is we're supposed to represent godlyhood. So that's basically what's going on in the background. We do everything in odd numbers for these steps, and this entire festival lasts for 9 days. And then on the 10th and final day, we celebrate the destruction of an evil demon back in the day that the goddess was able to kill, thereby bringing light, joy, peace back to the community and the village. So that's basically the concept of what's going on in the background. So just so you guys know, it's not just there for no reason. There is a purpose behind it, and it's just part of a very important tradition and celebration that we have. But that is not why you joined me today. So for those of you who are coming back, welcome. Those of you who are new, welcome. This is also spooky season. It is October. I have been so excited to read this month. It is not even funny. So I figured I would do what I read in a week, because this week has been extremely, extremely rewarding for me. So we're going to actually start with what I read on Monday last week all the way through today. So basically that would encompass September 30th all the way through October 7th. And so far I have managed to finish 7 books, which is very exciting, almost averaging a book per day, basically, which is not necessarily normal for me. I've just been that excited about reading. So without further ado, I thought I would go over what I've read so far. And now that things are moving so quickly with all of my reads right now, probably will be adding even more to my TBR, fingers crossed, for the month of October. So I'm very, very excited about that. But as it is spooky season, the first book that I ended up reading, well, not the first, but one of the books that I ended up reading was My Vampire Plus One. This is a book by Jenny Levine, basically following a secondary character from the initial novel that she wrote last year, which was My Roommate is a Vampire. In My Roommate is a Vampire, there are, pardon me, 2 main characters, Frederick and Cassie. Cassie has a best friend named Sam, who plays very heavily in the book and also has a husband that she's very close to. And then Frederick has another vampire friend, Reginald, who is constantly referred to as being, quote unquote, an absolute menace, but a good guy at heart. Reginald and Frederick go back centuries, really, and have always stayed in good terms. The main female character in this book is Amelia, who happens to be the sister of Sam, who is Cassie's best friend. So that's the tie-in there. So Amelia has watched Cassie grow up because she and Sam have been friends forever. She has a very close relationship with her younger brother, and so therefore that's the tie-in with Cassie. And then Reginald is our main vampire character, who was very heavily talked about in the first book, but now he has a book of his own. So in this book, Reginald is being hunted by the Vampire Council for a grievance they have against him that was committed ages ago, basically, centuries ago. They believe that he basically set a fire that led to the death of many of the founding vampires of the original committee of vampires. That have since spawned so much of the vampire community today, the vampire royals, if you will, in a way. And so they're out for, no pun intended, blood. They basically want to make Reginald pay for his crimes. And these are not those original vampires, but rather offspring or turned vampires by people within those lines. Amelia is a CEO who is basically single, has been for a very long time, and then her cousin ends up getting married, and so her family is all like, you've been single for so long, you really need to meet someone, we just want you to be happy. She happens to bump into Reginald in a meet cute initially, and then happens to realize that she needs a date for her cousin's wedding, lies to her family, and then they're like, who are you dating? And so naturally that's how this setup starts. Very, very cute story overall. It was very entertaining to read. I did enjoy it quite a bit. Fast-paced, fun, cute, enjoyable read. Very, very predictable, but in a cutesy way. I gave this book a solid 3 stars. It is something that I think is perfect for the Halloween season. Is it a book that I'm going to lose sleep over or think about all the time, or that it drastically changed my life? No, absolutely not. But do I think it's fun and entertaining for the October season? Absolutely. So would recommend My Vampire Plus One. The next book that I read is the last of Ali Hazelwood's books that have been released so far, which was Bride. I know there have been mixed reviews about this book. This book is basically following Misery, who is a vampire from the vampire royal line, and she has been collateral with the humans for the past 10 years. So in this book, humans, vampires, and werewolves all live and exist within close boundaries of one another. There's tentative truce between all three of the species, but there's also a significant lack of trust. The newer leadership is trying to bridge that gap of mistrust and create more opportunities for all of the creatures and people to live peacefully. Misery, in that extent, was then sent off to the humans as a young child to live there for 10 years as collateral. For that reason, she felt very outcasted by the vampires, and she doesn't really know how to behave around her own people because she spent eons with the humans. And then at the same stretch, the humans don't fully accept her because she is a vampire, and the whole concept was that if the vampire stepped a toe out of line, she would be killed. So while she has grown up under their customs and she has developed a relationship with them, she doesn't feel 100% at home there. In the midst of all of this, Misery is summoned back to her father's home, where he basically tells her that he needs her to enter into an arranged marriage with the werewolf alpha leader, who is basically Lo. I'm sorry, guys. Basically, Lo Moreland, who is the alpha vampire of the Southern. That's what I was trying to figure out. There's different clans, but he's one of the main pack leaders who recently took over power from the old old werewolf leader, Roscoe. And so Lo is now trying to create opportunities for the werewolves, the vampires, and the humans to live in peace. So it was decided that a vampire and a werewolf would then get married. So Misery ends up getting married to this werewolf and has to live in werewolf territory for 1 year in order to fulfill that arrangement. And she also agrees to doing this because she has her own secret agenda, trying to find a missing person that is very dear and important to her. There are some side characters in this book that are absolutely hilarious. There's a little girl in this book who is absolutely adorable. And I think in general, the banter between Misery and Lo was funny. It was entertaining. It was very, very entertaining. I don't think it was her best book by any stretch of the imagination. I still give that title to The Love Hypothesis and Love Theoretically, but I do think this book was significantly better than Love on the Brain, Not in Love, and Checkmate. So I genuinely enjoyed this book. I actually ended up giving this a 4 stars. I thought it was very, very funny. I love Misery's character. I love her personality. I love her quirks and her spunk. I also really just love Lo. I love the other werewolves in this book. I love reading about her relationship with her vampiric brother. Like, it's just in general a very interesting book. And it's also very funny to see her go through her own emotional journey and realizing how she herself, as well as other characters around her, learn to overcome prejudices that they already have in order to accept one another. So I think overall, very well written book, very entertaining, and very apropos for this October season. Then I read Hooked by Emily McIntyre. Now this book is steamy. This book is a lot of steam for those who don't want steamy books. This is spicy. This is probably like a 3 to 4 chili spice, honestly. There's a lot going on in this book. But basically, this is a retelling of Peter Pan if Hook were actually the protagonist and Wendy fell in love with Hook. So it's a very interesting story. There's a lot of takes from Peter Pan that have been reimagined for this book. For example, Wendy only has one brother, and her brother's name is John. Wendy Darling was obviously the name of the main female character in the original Peter Pan, and so her name is Wendy Michael in this book, but Hook likes to call her Wendy Darling, which is where the Darling was reintroduced. The ship that Hook uses is Tinkerbell. So, things like that. Like, there's definitely some overlap there, but it's more like gangster vibes. So if you like a good gangster romance, then this is actually pretty entertaining. I thought it was very well reimagined. It's definitely a dark take on Peter Pan, but it was very interesting, and I really enjoyed reading the story and kind of feeling like I already knew what was going to happen because, Peter Pan, but also the fact that it was very different than what I was originally anticipating. I think it's also perfect for the spooky season in general. I think it was very, very fun read, and I definitely see myself picking up the rest of Emily McIntyre's books in her Twisted series, the Never After series, as she reimagines some of these classic children tales and movies that we all grew up with. So very entertaining, very fun. Gave this a solid 3 stars. It was a little spicy for me. There's also certain things that Hook does where Wendy, I felt like, forgave him way too quickly. I'm like, no, absolutely not. But there's also just so much trauma in this book for both characters, and there's just so much damage that's been done through their childhoods that I can kind of understand how the characters understood one another and the actions that the other person took. But again, just certain things that I think were forgiven a little too quickly for my liking. I would have liked to see Hook have to grovel just a little bit more for Wendy's approval. But I think the story overall was very, very entertaining. Gave this a solid 3.5 stars. Next up, we have Middle of the Night by Riley Sager. This has been sitting on my TBR for so long. It has been there ever since it was released, I think back in August or July. Riley Sager is probably one of my favorite thriller authors. I just think he knows how to tell a story. I just think he just does a phenomenal job of stringing together a beautifully woven story that keeps you on the edge of your seat. Not necessarily from the standpoint that it's going to make you scared, but from the standpoint of like, you want to know what happened. This book, I think, is not as much thriller horror. This is more a question of childhood, defining you, friendships, your relationships with your friends, the importance of our childhood friendships and how they define us, love, concepts of family. Very beautifully written book, and kind of what goes around comes around vibes. This book basically follows the character of, I already forgot the main character's name. I'm so sorry. Ethan Marsh. It follows the story of Ethan Marsh, and it's told from 2 perspectives. So there's Ethan Marsh, who is basically 30 years in the future, or now past 30, I should say, coming back to his childhood home and basically having to relive the experiences of what happened on a tragic night back when he was about 12 years old. And that's also told from the perspective of the past of 12 years ago when his best friend Billy ends up going missing, and they've never ever closed the case. He's never found, he's never returned. It does explore the idea of paranormal. It does explore the idea of friendships and ghosts and things like that. So there is that little spooky element to it. But overall, it's just really him going through what he experienced as a child and reconciliating that with where he is now in order to move forward in his life. So beautifully written book, very, very enjoyable. I don't think it's the best that Riley Sager has ever put out. I will be honest. Personally, I have read every single one of Riley Sager's works. I think every single one of them are excellent. Riley Sager is a pseudonym for the actual author, who I can't think of the actual name of right now, but he is a phenomenal author. My personal favorite of his was the very first book of his that I ever read, which was Lock Every Door. I really enjoyed that one, and I also really liked Only One Survives, and then I also really liked The House Across the Lake. Those were probably my favorites, but in general, he just has some amazing thrillers that he's put out, and I just think it's so much fun to read his book. So would definitely recommend. This is easy to read, and again, finish this in one day. So not hard to just sit down, power through on a nice Halloween-y, fall-y day. Oh, 3 stars. Next up, we have the book that I actually finished today. So this is the book that I finished reading earlier today. It is Vampire Academy, which is also the book that we had selected for our Book of the Month read for my book club, the Overbooked Book Club. This is the Fairy Loot edition. I did do an unboxing of this book, so I'm sure you guys have seen them before. If you've been around, if you're new, definitely go check out that video if you're into seeing special editions and things like that. Here are the side painted edges with the raven in the middle. I thought this was a very entertaining book. I think as far as vampire books go and schools and all that kind of stuff goes, it's definitely different for me. I haven't really read a Vampire Academy book. I have read the Crave series, and I have read the Twilight series. Twilight obviously is human-vampire relationships, and then Crave is obviously about multiple different species of children from mythological creatures going to school together. So you have like vampires, you have witches, you have all kinds of things. So it's kind of mixed. This is like truly just an academy for vampires. And I just thought it was so much fun to read. It was very entertaining. This was a blast to get through. I loved the setup. I loved the emphasis on friendship. I loved the relationships between the main characters. I also really enjoyed seeing the love interests develop in this book. I thought that was very entertaining. I do fully plan on finishing this series after reading this book, so I don't know if I'll finish them all this month itself because it is 6 books, but on the off chance that some of the other ones arrive, I have the first 3 in this set, and then Fairy Loot just released the next 3 to be bought as a set, and I believe it said it should be shipping between October and November, so don't know when those will come in, but I do plan on finishing this series. Very entertaining, very fun, very fast-paced, definitely young adult vibes when I was reading it. I don't know if it's marketed as young adult, but felt more young adult to me. Definitely entertaining and fast-paced read. Perfect for the October fall season. I would give this book a solid 4 stars. 3 stars? 3.5 to 4 stars. Somewhere in that range. But entertaining, fun, fast-paced read. Perfect for spooky season. Then we have, I'm going to save this one actually because it's my favorite. Then I had This Spells Love. This Spells Love was a book that actually came out last year in November 2023. I think it's perfect for the fall, perfect for the October season. It's basically a book about a woman who has a terrible breakup. She's kind of in a rut in her life. She's secure. She's happy. She's financially stable. And she has a best friend who is a male who she has never deigned to look at in any other way, even though there is some chemistry between them because she's too afraid of ruining the relationship. And then she's just come out of a relationship that lasted for, I want to say 4 years before they broke up. But they just realized that they weren't compatible. She doesn't know what she wants to do about it. So her crazy aunt invites her over to the bookstore and she shows up with her best friend, her sister, and her aunt. And they decide to cast a spell to make her forget what happened. And she casts the spell and wakes up and all of a sudden is living in an entirely new reality. And in this new reality, her best friend no longer remembers who she is. She still has her sister, she still has her aunt, but her entire life has been turned topsy-turvy. She's living in a new location. She has opened up a store that she had always dreamed about opening but never bothered to in her current life because she didn't think it would ever succeed. And her best friend Dax has no clue who she is. And so now they have an opportunity at a second chance. I think for a second chance romance, this was absolutely lovely. I think as far as the spells and the vibes, it's definitely perfect for fall. Would recommend anyone to pick this up and read it. It's such a cute, fun, fast-paced read. I gave this a solid 4 stars and may even see myself picking this up in the future next year. Last but not least, 5-star read. This is my 5-star read so far this month. This book is Phantasma. It was written by Kylie Smith. It is, if you think about Caraval combined with spooky, edgy hell, like Circles of Hell and game show vibes, like that is basically what Phantasma is. It is excellent. It is a paranormal romance. It is absolutely beautiful. It follows the stories of 2 sisters. Ophelia, who is the main sister talked about in this book, is basically finding herself in a position where her mother has just passed away and she has inherited her mother's magical powers and now the ability to speak to ghosts, perform seances, help crossing over of loved ones, and also, of course, communicating with the dead. All of this to say that she is not someone who has the best social life. She doesn't really get out much, but she loves her sister and she loves where she grew up. That's always been home for her. And she's now expected to take over the family business. All of a sudden, she realizes because of her mother's untimely death that their family is in debt and they're about to lose their manor home where they live. And so she and her younger sister get into a fight. The younger sister runs off and says, I'm going to fix everything. And she digs into what's going on and finds out that her sister may be joining a carnival or a competition known as Phantasma at the Devil's Manor, When you enter into Phantasma, you are basically signing over a piece of your soul. You can leave if you choose to leave. You will not die, but you just won't achieve the ultimate price, which is to talk to the Prince of the Devils himself and ask for a favor. There's a different hierarchy of specters, ghouls, goblins, ghosts in this book. It's very, very entertaining. Our main female lead is very, very capable woman who is fun to read about, and the love interest was great. This book is amazing, in my humble opinion. In Phantasma, anything goes. You just have to survive the competitions. You are given a clue by the devils as you go through. And once you reach the 7th level and you succeed, then you can open the final door. Now, the only catch in this is that no matter what you do, no matter where you go, you cannot fall in love in Phantasma. Excellent book, 5-star read for me. Would definitely recommend. Perfect for the spooky season, and I cannot wait until the second book, Enchantra, also comes out. I will be getting my hands on that book as well. I think Book of the Month made the perfect decision putting this on the Book of the Month website, and would definitely recommend to everyone. And that wraps up what I read in a week. So these are my books so far that we've read, and I look forward to continuing with spooky season, and I will catch you guys up soon as we get closer to the end of October with all the other reads. Thank you so much for joining me. If you are new here and this was something that was fun for you and you do want to stick around, definitely consider hitting that subscription button and that notification bell. I put out videos every Sunday and Wednesday. For those of you that are returning, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me today and hanging out with me. Please, 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 to anyone new or old, rain or shine, wherever you may be, please leave comments down below if there's any books you think I need to read, any books in this list that have sparked your interest that you may want to read, and any of these books that you may have read that you have thoughts or comments on that I may not have addressed, or if you agree with anything that I am saying or don't agree. I always want to hear about your comments. I'm trying to really create a space for myself where I have a bookish community. I think that reading is so beautiful and it's so special, and I love sharing it with everyone. So please, please, please do consider leaving your comments below, because I do truly enjoy reading them and responding. That being said, thank you so much for joining me, and until next time, I will catch you guys later. Bye.